I stood in front of my new house, running my fingers across the freshly painted mailbox with my name on it. After 5 years of relentless work, I finally had a place to call my own. The memory of that painful day, when my family kicked me out on my 28th birthday, still stung, but I had rebuilt my life brick by brick. Then the phone call came yesterday. My parents wanted to talk about my house, claiming it was a family asset that belonged to all of us. The confusion and anger bubbling inside me felt all too familiar, like history repeating itself in the cruelest way. Before I tell you this unbelievable story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button to support our channel, as I reveal how I fought back against the family who abandoned me. I grew up in Seattle in what I thought was a typical middle-class American family. My father worked as a mid-level manager at an insurance company, and my mother taught 3rd grade at the local elementary school. I was the middle child, sandwiched between my older brother Jacob and my younger sister Amanda. From my earliest memories, I always felt like I had to work twice as hard to be noticed in our household. Jacob received special treatment as the firstborn son. My parents attended every football game he played, proudly displaying his trophies on the fireplace mantel. Amanda, being the baby of the family, was showered with affection and got away with nearly everything. As the middle child, I often found myself fading into the background of family photos and conversations. We had what appeared to be happy memories on the surface. Family camping trips to Olympic National Park, where Dad would teach us how to set up tents and build fires. Christmas mornings with hot chocolate and presents under the tree. Sunday dinners where Mom would make her famous pot roast. But even during these seemingly perfect moments, I felt a subtle current of inequality running beneath the surface. When I turned 16, I discovered the first concrete evidence that my parents viewed me differently than my siblings. I had been saving for college since I was 14, working weekends at the local hardware store. Curious about how much my college fund had grown, I asked my parents about it one evening after dinner. My father shifted uncomfortably in his chair, while my mother suddenly became very interested in washing the dishes. After an awkward silence, they admitted they had used most of my college fund to pay for Jacob to attend a prestigious private high school and to buy Amanda a new car for her 16th birthday, even though she had failed her driving test. Twice. My heart sank, as my father explained, "You can take out student loans, like most kids. You are smarter than Jacob, so you will get scholarships. Amanda needs more support than you do." I swallowed my disappointment and started working at a local bakery my junior year of high school to save money for college. While Jacob was sent to Boston for college, I attended the state university 15 miles from home. I worked 30 hours a week at the bakery, while taking a full course load, often studying until 2 in the morning to maintain my grades. Despite this unfair treatment, I continued helping around the house whenever I could. I fixed the leaky kitchen faucet when Dad was too busy watching football. I mowed the lawn every weekend during summer breaks. I helped my parents figure out how to use their new smartphones and set up their email accounts. I thought if I just proved my worth through actions, they would eventually see me as equal to my siblings. After graduating with a degree in business administration, I landed an entry-level job at a local tech company. The salary was modest, but it was a foot in the door of an industry I was excited about. I continued living at home to save money, paying my parents 30% of my income as rent. I cooked dinner for the family twice a week and handled all the chores nobody else wanted to do, like cleaning the gutters and taking the trash cans to the curb on garbage day. My parents constantly reminded me how lucky I was that they allowed me to stay at home despite my financial contributions and help around the house. They would say things like, "Most parents kick their kids out after college, but we are letting you stay because we care about you." Meanwhile, Jacob had been fired from 2 jobs, but received constant emotional and financial support from our parents. They paid his rent when he was between jobs and never asked for repayment. Amanda was pursuing a music career that consisted mainly of posting covers on social media and playing occasional gigs at coffee shops. She lived at home rent-free because she was following her passion. As my 28th birthday approached, I had been saving diligently and was starting to look at apartments in the area. I was hoping to move out within the next 6 months, but I was in no rush. I expected my birthday to be a simple affair, maybe a family dinner and a cake. I gently reminded my parents about my upcoming birthday the week before, not wanting to seem demanding but hoping they would remember. I took the day off work, thinking it would be nice to spend my birthday with family. In the days leading up to it, I overheard my parents whispering about a surprise. A flutter of excitement rose in my chest. Maybe they had finally seen all my contributions, all my hard work. Maybe this was the moment they would show they valued me just as much as Jacob and Amanda. I daydreamed about what the surprise might be. Perhaps they had pooled together for a nice gift, or maybe they were planning a special dinner with extended family. For once, I allowed myself to hope that I would be the center of attention, that my birthday would be celebrated, the way we had always celebrated Jacob and Amanda birthdays, with fanfare and genuine joy. The morning of my birthday dawned bright and clear. I woke up early feeling oddly optimistic. No one greeted me with birthday wishes at breakfast, but I assumed that was part of the surprise. I decided to go into the office for half a day to finish an important project, even though I had requested the full day off. As I was wrapping up my work around noon, I received a text message from my mother. "Come home early. We need to talk to you about something important." My heart raced with anticipation. This must be the surprise they had been planning. I stopped at a local bakery on the way home and picked up a small chocolate cake, thinking we could share it after whatever they had planned. When I pulled into our driveway, my stomach dropped. Neatly stacked in front of the garage door were my belongings. My books, my clothes, my computer, even my childhood baseball card collection. Everything was packed into boxes and suitcases, arranged with an efficiency that suggested this was not a hasty decision. The front door was locked. I had to knock on the door of what had been my home for most of my life. My father answered, his face a mask of detached formality. "Come in, Cliff. We are all in the living room." I walked in to find my entire family seated like a tribunal. My parents sat on the couch. Jacob lounged in the recliner with a smug expression, and Amanda sat close to a man I recognized as her boyfriend Tony. No one wished me happy birthday. My mother cleared her throat and announced Amanda and Tony just got engaged. They need to start their new life together, and they need space to do that. I stood there still holding the cake I had purchased as my father continued where my mother left off. "You are 28 years old now, Cliff. It is time for you to be independent. You have lived here long enough." The shock must have been evident on my face because Jacob chuckled. My mother quickly added, "We have been planning this for a while, and we thought today would be a good day for a fresh start for everyone." A fresh start. On my birthday, I stammered, struggling to process what was happening. Amanda spoke up, her voice dripping with entitlement. "Tony and I need the bigger bedroom. We are starting a family soon, and it makes sense for us to have that space. You understand, right?" I was speechless. I managed to ask for more time, suggesting I could sleep on the couch or in the storage room until I found a place. I just needed a few weeks. Jacob laughed outright at this. "Time to man up, little brother. Mom and Dad carried you long enough." My father pulled an envelope from his pocket and handed it to me. Inside was a check for $500. "This should cover a month of rent somewhere. Your mother packed all your things." I looked to my mother, hoping for some intervention, some acknowledgement of how wrong this felt. She gave me a sad smile, but said nothing in my defense. "I think this is for the best, honey. You need to stand on your own 2 feet." I left that house with tears streaming down my face, still clutching the birthday cake I had bought. I spent that night sleeping in my old car, in a public parking lot, unable to process the betrayal I had just experienced. I called a few friends, but no one could take me in on such short notice. The next morning I went to work in the same clothes from the day before. I could not focus, and my supervisor noticed. He pulled me aside and reprimanded me for my lack of attention to detail. When I checked my phone during lunch, I discovered my parents had canceled my cell phone plan, which had been part of the family package. They had truly cut me off in every way possible. I was overwhelmed by stress, panic, and despair. Everything I thought I knew about my family, about my place in the world, had been shattered in a single day. And it was not just any day, it was my birthday, a day that should have been about celebration, not devastation. With the $500 my father had given me, I managed to rent a dingy room in a rundown boarding house. It was the only place I could afford without having time to save for a security deposit. The walls were thin, the shared bathroom was always dirty, and the neighborhood made me nervous to walk alone at night. 2 weeks after moving into the boarding house, I was called into my supervisor office. Due to my declining performance and what he called an attitude problem, I was being let go. I had never been fired before, and the shame mixed with my already overwhelming sense of abandonment was almost too much to bear. With no job and dwindling savings, I found work at a coffee shop making minimum wage. I had to sell my car to cover the next month's rent and buy groceries. I sent desperate text messages to my family asking if I could at least store some of my belongings in their garage or borrow a small amount of money until I got back on my feet. The only response I received was from my father. "This is part of growing up. Figure it out on your own. We all have our own problems." Working at the coffee shop was exhausting and demeaning after having had a professional job, but I had no choice. I worked every shift I could get, often pulling doubles to make enough to survive. My hands were constantly chapped from washing dishes, and my feet ached from standing for 8 to 10 hours at a time. About a month into my new job, I noticed a regular customer who came in every morning at exactly 7:30 a.m. He always ordered the same thing, a large black coffee and a blueberry muffin, and sat in the corner with his laptop for exactly 1 hour. His name was Frank, and he always thanked me by name and left a generous tip. One morning, Frank asked me why I looked so tired. Something about his genuine concern broke through the wall I had built around myself, and I found myself telling him a brief version of my situation. Instead of offering empty sympathy, Frank asked me about my education and skills. When I told him I had a business degree and had worked in tech, his eyes lit up. Frank was the founder of a software startup that was beginning to gain traction. He handed me his business card and asked if I would be interested in an internship position that had just opened up. I started the following week working evenings at the coffee shop and days at Frank Company. The internship paid less than my previous job, but it offered something more valuable, a chance to rebuild my career. I threw myself into learning everything I could about programming and web design skills that would make me more valuable to the company. Frank became more than a boss. He became a mentor. He saw potential in me that my own family had never acknowledged. He taught me about investing wisely and managing finances for long-term stability. Most importantly, he showed me what supportive leadership looked like. Within 6 months, my internship was converted to a full-time position. I was able to quit the coffee shop and focus entirely on my new career. With a stable income, I moved out of the boarding house into a small but clean apartment. It was nothing fancy, but it was mine, and I felt proud every time I unlocked the door. Over the next year, I took online courses to enhance my technical skills. I formed friendships with coworkers who respected and valued me. I joined a support group for people who had been estranged from their families, where I found understanding and guidance from others who had walked similar paths. 3 years after that fateful birthday, I was promoted to team lead of the development department. The startup was thriving, and my salary had more than doubled. I had been carefully saving and investing following Frank's advice. I was no longer living paycheck to paycheck, but building a secure financial foundation. By the time I turned 33, I had saved enough for a down payment on a house. The housing market in Seattle was expensive, but I found a modest home in a nice suburb with a small yard and a front porch where I could drink my morning coffee. Frank helped me negotiate a good price and introduced me to a reliable mortgage broker. The day I moved into my new home was one of the proudest moments of my life. It represented 5 years of perseverance of rebuilding from nothing. I invited my friends from work and my support group for a small housewarming party. Looking around at these people who genuinely cared about me, I realized I had created a new kind of family, one based on mutual respect and support rather than obligation and blood ties. About a month after moving in, my phone rang with a number I had not seen in years. It was my mother. I hesitated before answering, but curiosity got the better of me. Her voice was sweet, almost sickeningly so. "Cliff, darling. How are you? We have heard you are doing so well now. Congratulations on your new house." I was immediately suspicious. In 5 years, there had been no birthday calls, no holiday invitations, not even a text message to see if I was alive. Now suddenly my mother was acting as if no time had passed, as if they had not abandoned me when I was most vulnerable. She asked if the family could come visit my new home. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Part of me still hoped for reconciliation, for some acknowledgement of the hurt they had caused. When they arrived the following weekend, the truth quickly became apparent. Jacob had filed for bankruptcy after a failed business venture. My father had been cut to part-time hours at his job. The family was facing financial difficulties, and they saw me the son they had discarded as a potential solution. My father wasted no time in suggesting that they all move in with me temporarily to help everyone save money. I could see the calculation in his eyes as he looked around my house, assessing its value, its potential for solving their problems. I politely declined their request. My father's expression hardened. Children have a responsibility to take care of their parents in times of need. It is the natural order of things. Amanda chimed in, suggesting I should share my good fortune with the family. After all, we raised you, she said, conveniently forgetting that she was younger than me. Jacob made thinly veiled threats about moving in regardless of my wishes. He had a key made, he claimed, from the spare I had given my mother in case of emergencies. When I remained firm in my refusal, my father dropped the bombshell. If you will not help your family willingly, we will have no choice but to take legal action. This house is a family asset, and we are entitled to our share. I was stunned. Family asset. How could a house I had purchased with money I earned after they had thrown me out possibly be considered a family asset? As my father explained their twisted logic, I realized they truly believed that because I was a member of the family, my property belonged to the family community. It did not matter that they had cut me off completely. In their minds, they were entitled to the fruits of my labor, simply because we shared DNA. The official notice from my family lawyer arrived a week later. I sat at my kitchen table, hands shaking, as I read the lawsuit claiming I owed my family 60% ownership of my home. The document painted me as an ungrateful son who had abandoned his family responsibilities, a complete inversion of the truth. I immediately called Frank, the only person I trusted enough to share this nightmare. He listened calmly, and then referred me to Sarah, a sharp attorney who specialized in family law. This is not the first case of family entitlement I have seen, she told me during our first meeting. We will fight this. Sarah helped me gather every piece of evidence documenting my abandonment and subsequent self-reliance. I had kept the original $500 check my father had given me, never cashed, as a painful reminder of my worth to them. I had text messages showing their refusal to help when I was desperate. My former landlord at the boarding house provided a statement about my circumstances when I moved in. Frank and several coworkers gave depositions describing how I had built my career from nothing, working multiple jobs and taking classes at night. The coffee shop manager testified about my work ethic during that difficult period. My family defense was both predictable and infuriating. They claimed they had only asked me to move out to help me become independent. They insisted they had always considered me a beloved son and brother despite 5 years of complete silence. They argued that my success was only possible because of the foundation they had provided through my upbringing. The day of the hearing was surreal. Sitting across from my family in the courtroom, I barely recognized them. My mother avoided eye contact, my father appeared indignant. Jacob looked bored, and Amanda kept checking her phone. They were strangers wearing the faces of people I once loved. Sarah presented our case methodically. She showed the judge the birthday cake receipt from the day I was evicted. She submitted the photographs I had taken of my belongings stacked outside the house. She played the single voicemail my mother had left me, in 5 years conveniently timed, right after I had purchased my home. When the judge asked my father directly why they had not contacted me for 5 years if I was such a beloved family member, he stumbled over his words. When asked why they believed they were entitled to a home purchased entirely with my own earnings, he cited family tradition and parental sacrifice. The judge's deliberation was brief. He dismissed the case entirely, stating that my family had no legal claim to my property. Furthermore, he ordered them to pay my legal fees and a small amount for emotional damages, noting that their claim appeared to be motivated by financial opportunism rather than genuine family concern. As they left the courtroom, not one of them looked back at me. No apologies, no acknowledgments of the pain they had caused, just silent resentment that their plan had failed. It was the final confirmation that cutting them from my life had been the right decision. I used the money from the settlement to make an extra payment toward my mortgage. Every time I made a payment, I felt a surge of pride and ownership. This house was mine, bought with my sweat and tears, protected by my courage to stand up for myself. News of the lawsuit spread through extended family circles. To my surprise, several distant relatives reached out to me sharing that they had witnessed my parents' favoritism for years, but had never felt it was their place to intervene. My cousin Thomas, whom I had always been close with as a child, reconnected with me and apologized for losing touch. In the aftermath of the court case, I became more active in my support group, sharing my story to help others who had been discarded by their families. I started a blog about my experiences and the process of rebuilding a life and sense of self-worth after family rejection. The response was overwhelming with messages from people around the country who had faced similar situations. Frank and my colleagues rallied around me even more strongly after learning the full extent of what I had endured. They became the family I chose, people who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide them. We celebrated holidays together, supported each other through challenges, and shared in each other's successes. Through the support group, I met Lisa, a woman who had experienced a similar family betrayal. We connected over our shared history, but more importantly, over our shared commitment to building healthier lives and relationships. Our friendship gradually deepened into something more, a partnership based on mutual respect and genuine care. Slowly, I learned to forgive my family not for their sake, but for my own peace of mind. Holding on to anger was only hurting me, keeping me tethered to people who had shown they did not deserve a place in my life. Forgiveness did not mean reconciliation. It meant freedom from the power of their rejection. I transformed my house into a true home, painting the walls, colors I loved, planting a small vegetable garden in the backyard, and filling the rooms with books and music that brought me joy. Every corner reflected my personality and interests, with no compromises to accommodate others' preferences or judgments. I established a small fund to help young adults who had been cast out by their families, providing emergency housing assistance and educational support. It was my way of turning my pain into purpose, creating something positive from my negative experience. I volunteered as a mentor for teenagers struggling with family conflicts, offering guidance based on my own journey. I could not change their family dynamics, but I could show them that their worth was not determined by their family treatment of them. When Lisa moved in with me, we created the kind of home environment neither of us had experienced growing up, one built on communication, consideration, and love. We made decisions together, respected each other's boundaries, and celebrated each other's accomplishments wholeheartedly. Through this journey, I came to understand that family is defined by love and respect, not by genetics. The people who stand by you when you have nothing to offer but yourself, who celebrate your victories without jealousy, who support you through difficulties without keeping score, those are your true family. My house stands as more than just a physical structure. It represents my independence, my resilience, and my right to define my own life. Each mortgage payment is an affirmation that I am worthy of security and happiness. Each improvement I make to the property is an investment in my future, a future I control. The lawsuit, as painful as it was, provided the final closure I needed. It confirmed what I had suspected but had been afraid to fully accept, that my family had never seen me as a person with inherent value, only as a resource to be utilized. The court victory was not just about keeping my house. It was about establishing once and for all that my life belonged to me. I no longer feel pain when I think about my past. Instead, I feel grateful for the journey that brought me to where I am today. Without the hardships, I might never have discovered my own strength, built meaningful friendships, found true love, or developed the compassion that now guides my life. If there is one lesson I have learned through all of this, it is that we cannot control how others treat us, but we absolutely can control how we respond and who we become in the process. Sometimes the people who should love us the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. But that hurt does not have to define us. It can refine us if we choose not to let bitterness take root. My home is not just an asset, it is a symbol of freedom and rebirth. Sometimes we have to lose what we thought was family to find the true meaning of home. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who tried to take advantage of you after ignoring you for years? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more real-life experiences that show the power of resilience. Share this with someone who might be struggling with family boundaries, because sometimes knowing we are not alone makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that your worth is not determined by those who fail to see it.